Hello and welcome to the Beer Pad. With me, as always, is my excellent host. He is not the fastest man alive, but he's up there. He's in my top 20. Marcus Beer.
Couldn't even catch a bus, or you can't even catch a cold, let alone a bus nowadays. Thank you, Raymondo. How are you doing, my glorious friend? You're looking like a delicious banana today.
Yes. I'm good. There's an interesting development since we last spoke. Due to
You're not
people.
the dad?
No, that was 2 years ago when we did that little
Okay.
dance. Since we last spoke, and due to someone that I've been spending time with and her interests, I am now a Blink. Do you know what that is?
Dude, I'm 52 years of age. I barely know what a TikTok is.
So she's been asking me to listen to Blackpink because they're one of her favorite artists. And we're going to a Blackpink show here in August, and they're delightful and charming young women. Although what I've learned about the K-pop industry, it's so fucked up. It's so exploitative, and they take advantage of so many young boys and girls that want to be stars and basically just extract them for money. And they leave them penniless and in debt.
You do realize you're literally aging me as we speak. I mean, somebody I know went to a K-pop concert last week with his girlfriend and her sister, and he said he had a good time. And I'm like, so who did you go see? And he said, twice.
Don't know him. I only know BTS and
I knew
Blackpink.
BTS. The thing he said, I know BTS, and that's about it. I know of BTS. I have never heard a BTS song. I have never watched them in concert. Whenever they have come on a TV show, I have rapidly fast forwarded or turned off. And again, no offense to fans of BTS, because I know that there are stans, because I know that's a word. Because let's face it, that's a fucking stupid term, isn't it? Oh, you can't be a fan anymore. You got to be a stan. Why? Because Eminem did a record called Stan that was taking the piss out of obsessive fans. So these obsessive fans said, "Oh, I'm a stan of BTS. Oh, I'm a Beyonce stan. Oh, I'm a Blink-182 stan." No, you're all fucking morons. So there you go. So anyway, we're not talking about stans. We're not talking about
yes,
pink
Blackpink
is the new pink. Or anything else, and whatever else you're twinking along to. I mean, the lengths you'll go to get some is quite beyond me. But hey, I used to be in that situation a long, long time ago, and then I got old. So why are we here, Ray? What are we talking about today?
We are talking about The Flash, the latest movie in the DC extended universe. Not Flash Gordon with a kick-ass soundtrack by Queen, but oh, he'll save every one of us. Oh, Brian May kicks
Dispatch War Rocket Ajax to bring back his body. That's some quality shit there, young people. Listen to Queen, never mind your BTS or your Pinks is the new oranges and all this other things. Just
you should listen to Queen though. Queen is actually my favorite band ever.
Favorite band of all time.
Phenomenal.
Police, my favorite band of all time.
Welcome
to the old man's club.
So Flash, it's an interesting movie in that it's kind of ending the first run of the DC extended universe and all that.
We should have a dongle that every time somebody says Flash, it goes Flash.
Oh, I'd love that button personally.
That would be a good. I wonder if somebody's done one on the internet. Maybe they used Flash.
So
Anyway,
this movie is kind of ending things for the project that Zack Snyder, Jeff Johns, and those guys started.
It's the end of the Snyderverse.
And it's a segue into what James Gunn will be doing in.
Let me just say, sorry to interrupt again. You're on fire, but let me just say to Zack Snyder and his fans, so long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen, fuck off.
Fuck off.
Fuck off. Fuck off. To you and you and you.
It always shocks me how passionate some people are about the Snyderverse. I totally don't get it. To me, they're not good movies.
They're shit movies, and he's a shit director. He had 2.5 good films in him.
Ooh,
Okay.
like 300.
300 was half a good film, and Watchmen was a good film.
Okay.
Give him credit on Watchmen. But then everybody thought, oh my God, he's a comic book Svengali. He is going to be wonderful. Turns out he was just a half a trick pony.
He followed it panel from panel, not that hard for
No.
Watchmen. He had great
Yeah.
source material.
Yes, exactly. Well, he's had great source material on all his comic book movies. Doesn't
Yeah.
stop them. It stopped him screwing them like a naughty pooch. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Anyway, yes, please. This
Yeah,
is
so
the last of the Snyderverse.
The Flash movie is loosely based on the Flashpoint comics, which kind of reset the DC Comics universe, and that's what it's doing here. So there's more multiverse stuff. They explain it in a really interesting way. I think it's the clearest way the multiverse has been explained, because it's
I don't
not.
know. I think Loki's got it. Loki's got it pretty right, but I mean, well, should we get to that towards the end? Let's talk about the actual film first.
Yeah, sure.
Because this is a film that's been in. This was first announced almost 10 years ago.
Yeah,
and was scheduled to come out in 2018, and then there was obviously various other issues and back and forth, and then there was filming issues. Then there was and it got delayed and got delayed, and then the pandemic.
Yeah.
And then it was supposed to come out last year, I think it was, and then there was the upheaval at DC, and there was obviously the various well-documented issues with Ezra Miller.
Yes.
Hashtag they them. And Ezra Miller was a very naughty they them.
Yes.
Did some very, very dubious, some dubious shit there, Chuck. Not a very, very naughty stuff.
Can I ask you, going into it, because of Ezra's activities, I guess we'll call them, did you have any baggage going into it? Because in my head, and it's kind of wrong, I did not want them to be good, and they were really good in this movie.
Well, I had concerns going in, because as we've discussed on this show, Marvel is undergoing the same issue right now with their Kang the Conqueror in Jonathan Majors, not Winters.
Not Winters. I was thinking
let me just get you in that one already there, my friend. Yes, because obviously Jonathan Majors is going through his own issues. Now, it seems that what Ezra Miller has done is way more egregious. I mean, I'm not trying to tone down what Jonathan Majors is accused of.
Right. But there's video evidence of what Ezra Miller has done.
So. What Ezra Miller has done has been very, very egregious. Now, the thing I will say that's kind of assuaged how, not assuaged, but perhaps
mollified.
Maybe just opened up that second chance card for me is that Ezra Miller has very obviously gone into rehab, has sought help for their problems. After the very last fracas, which I think was in summer of last year.
Yeah.
They vanished. They went off to get a lot of mental health help, because obviously mental issues are the main thing. And obviously I think there will be days in court.
Yeah.
But the first step is getting the help. Now, let's be pretty open about this. In my opinion, he's on strike 2 of a 3-strike rule.
Okay,
this is his last life. This is their last life. Apologies, I don't mean to misgender. I'm old. This is their last life, and if they fuck up again, they're done. I won't even go and see. But I mean, the trailers for this movie looked so good. Mm-hmm. And I have liked Ezra Miller's performances as the Flash. When they were first cast, I got to say, I was kind of hoping for Grant Gustin, because I was a big fan of the Flash TV show, and I thought
he's great.
His portrayal of Barry Allen was quite excellent. But then what we saw of Ezra Miller's Barry Allen in Justice League, was one of the few high points for me, especially if you look at the 2 different versions. They are actually really good in both. The Joss Whedon version has more humor, which really seems to be a good style for that Barry Allen character, and goes back to perhaps more of the comic books and certainly more of the Justice League cartoons back in the days of yore. And then the other one, showed a little more dramatic chops. So I was always very, very keen. I wanted to see it because I liked the balance they were striking, and I wanted to see what they were up to. And so, yeah, I went in with reservations, and I came out with reservations. And we will talk about all those reservations over the next half an hour or so.
Yeah.
I just need to step up and go grab my dog. Please excuse me. He's being a bit of a dickhead.
So I will give you guys some background on how I view the Flash. You have the holy trinity of DC, which is Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman. And I've always been more about the second tier characters, including the Flash, Green Lantern, Martian Manhunter. Those were always my favorites because I always thought the writers had more freedom with those characters. And Barry Allen, to me, he is Mr. Superhero. The way he went out in Crisis on Infinite Earths, just I thought was fantastic. And Ezra Miller's portrayal of Barry, it was more like Wally West, still very good, but definitely leaned more into the humor, and which is totally cool for their wheelhouse. The first thing I saw Ezra Miller in was The Perks of Being a Wallflower, and I thought, God, this guy, at the time he was going as a he, they're absolutely charming, and I think this movie totally takes advantage of their charm, and I thought the performance was fantastic. How did you feel?
Yeah. Look, first time I saw Ezra Miller in anything was actually Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. And I thought they were really cool. I mean, so much so that I really didn't recognize them again when they were in that Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice thing. But then when we got to see so much more, like I said, I got really intrigued, and I like I said, I liked it. I don't think it's more Wally West, in my opinion. I mean, I think Wally West has never been a favorite character of mine. The way they portray Barry Allen hints at down the line, this character is going to make these sacrifices. Maybe not on a cosmic treadmill, because that's the fucking stupidest idea I've ever seen in my life. But again, you could see how the character, there were hints at the character. They had their canon moment,
right,
if you will, to steal from Spider-Man across the multiverse, universe, megaverse, ultraverse, whatever. But yeah, the potential was there for this character to have the funny bits, to have the socially inept, awkward bits, because you could see how inept they were.
Right.
I mean, obviously, we didn't really get the character's backstory of him, perhaps, who raised him. Who raised Barry? Yeah, Barry Allen, while his dad was in jail and his mom was murdered.
Right.
So we didn't get to see any of that, to see any formative years. It was just dumped in front of us. So we see this socially awkward loner who's focused on one thing, and that was a good performance for me. That was a very interesting performance. And then just these funny little jokes, and you could see that Barry could have gone one of two ways. Barry could have, Barry went the way of doing the right thing, but Barry could have become an incel. Barry could have been just cut off from the world, living online, running around using the powers to bust his dad out of jail, etc., etc. And I mean, you could see there was that conflict, and I think being around the Justice League was definitely a high point in the movie when you see that interaction between all the main characters, and that was one of the few high points in the Justice League for me.
I agree.
Seeing them all there, much like when the Avengers are working, and it clicks, and you've got the first Avengers scene, we're all together on the helicarrier, and Iron Man, Tony Stark, comes in, and he's like, "No hard feelings, Point Break. You got a meat swing, and flying monkeys, and you've got these things
I get that reference.
Exactly. You've got them riffing off each other, and it's all working so well. And when you saw that on the plane in the Justice League, or in the Batcave, I mean, that whole lasso of truth thing where Jason Momoa was sitting on it, that was cut from the Snyder version, because Zack Snyder has no sense of humor or no soul. I'm not saying that Joss Whedon's version was better, but I'm sure there is some universe where amalgam of those two actually produces a decent Justice League movie. But I will never forgive Snyder for Martha. Who's Martha? Martha's my mommy. Oh, we can be friends now. Sorry, I tried to kill you.
It only happened once so far since the movie came out, but I love getting telemarketers named Martha, because I'm like, why did you say that name?
And scare the crap out of poor telemarketers. So yes, like I said, I think this is a very promising performance, and that's why I wanted to go in and see it. And I came out of it wanting to see more of Ezra Miller's Flash.
Yeah, same.
Now, that is dependent on a number of things. Does Ezra Miller continue as the character? If they get their shit together and stop being a naughty day them. And if James Gunn, who said very nice things, James Gunn and Peter Safran have both said very nice things about the Flash, so much so they've hired Andy Muschietti, or however you pronounce his last name, who is the director of the Flash, to do the next Batman movie, or their Batman movie, not the Batman movie,
right?
Batman Part 2.
Not
so we're gonna have two different Batmans, yeah, but that's going to be in the same universe. So yeah, I'd like to see more Ezra Miller, but Ezra Miller has to get their shit together and continue to get their shit together. Become a fucking paragon of virtue. Show us a clean fucking nose and just fucking behave for a fair while before you can even slightly do anything a little bit naughty, because some of those accusations are quite disturbing, and if they're proved, they are fucked. They are done.
Yeah,
send them to jail. That's it. If they are disproved, then we can talk second chance. Same with Jonathan Majors. Jonathan Majors is innocent until proven guilty. Right. I don't want to see Jonathan Majors removed as Kang until a history of these abuse charges are proven, and some of the other accusations have to be proven. That's it. You prove it, boom. But I cannot stand to see that everybody's willing to cut Ezra Miller a break while not doing the same for a black man. Right. And that's, to me, is unacceptable. So you have to treat them both in both the same. Just make sure that they get their shit together, and if these things are guilty, they serve their time, or they take their punishment, whatever that is. But it's interesting that how much Winters has suffered, Majors has suffered. See, you got me doing it now. Jonathan Majors has suffered with regards to his professional reputation, whereas Ezra Miller hasn't. But anyway, enough of that. Let's go to the actual movie.
Yeah, so let's take this time to turn on the spoiler shields, because there are going to be some spoilery elements to our discussion.
Did you do a spoiler shields?
I did not. I started working on one, and I didn't
you were off getting your black pinked.
That's right.
Or your pink blacked.
Black
whatever it is you're doing. All right. Well, spoiler shields in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Spoiler shields are on.
Yeah. Doesn't seem like anybody's watching anyway. We're just shouting out into the universe like a couple of crazy old bastards.
Well, in the replay too. So that
yes. All right. So
basically, this movie resets everything and ends with James Gunn having a clean slate and basically being able to do whatever he wants. But on the way there, Barry has this brilliant idea to go back in time and save his mom, because that is the pivotal moment in his life. His mom dies and his dad goes to jail for it.
His fixed point in time, if you will.
And he discovers, he talks to Batman, Ben Affleck Batman, who looks great in that costume. And I think.
I don't know. All right.
Yeah, go for
We
it.
need to that's the Dark Knight costume, isn't it?
Yes.
And if you rewatch it here, just looks really fucking weird. It's almost like, oh, you're seeing Batman in daylight now. Batman normally hangs out at night, but guess what?
Yeah.
He's out and about in the day because somebody's done something very naughty.
Also, I mean, this Batman also kills people, which is a big no-no.
Look, I don't have a problem with Batman killing people. Superman killing people, I have a problem with. Batman, not so much. But anyway, yes, the way it's like this
His
thing
jowls.
Yeah, and it's a putty gray, and it just doesn't look. I mean, something that looks really good in a comic just did not look good, in my opinion. But I think Batfleck is vastly underrated, and I know I've said this before.
I agree.
I am sorry that we're not getting a Batfleck movie. It's a shame his time passed, and there was all these issues with Snyder and the upheaval at DC. So I think Snyder did him no favors whatsoever. I mean, he didn't get his own movie. The best he got was a half and half.
Yeah, that was very poor too.
But I mean, he's the first Batman we see that night in this movie. And look, again, I think one of the best bits is when Barry Allen or the Flash is with Batman and with Wonder Woman. There's a scene on the bridge.
Yes,
and they're playing off each other. You can see the chemistry between the primaries all there, and that's what we haven't really gotten to see. And that's when I think Ezra Miller shines. And I think the DC extended universe
and really great use of the lasso of truth in that scene.
Again. Yeah, I mean it's great, but I mean now it's funny how it wasn't acceptable to the hardcore Snyder fans in Whedon's version of the Justice League. But now it's totally acceptable because it's still within the Snyderverse now, and it's all right.
Oh, by the way, yes. the movie kicks off with some Chicago. So best use of Peter Cetera. It should win an Oscar for that or something.
Peter Cetera is an absolute legend.
Yeah, definitely. There's actually 2 great Chicago songs used in the movie, so I wonder how that came in. I'm a big Chicago fan, so.
So yeah, I mean, obviously and again, everybody can. I think anybody who watches this, they know what the premise of the Flash is. They know it is Flashpoint. We've got 3 such different acts in this movie to discuss. Act 1 is the realization, that he can go back in time. He knew he'd done it once before at the end of Justice League, and it was a little wibbly wobbly. But you see the build up of that. Barry's got a job. Barry is working as a forensic technician. You see him trying to interact with a couple of co-workers who are absolute fuck knuckles. You see him, saving people. So in that first act, there is one big set piece, which is a hospital wing is about to collapse, and in that hospital wing is an awful lot of babies, and the babies come flying out the windows from like 30 stories up, because everybody knows that if you're going to put babies anywhere in a hospital, it's in a room with a huge glass windows 30 stories up in Gotham City, which is hardly the safest city in the world, fictional city anyway. And so this is the first set piece, and this is the first time the movie starts to go off the fucking rails for me.
Okay.
Let's talk about the big issue that permeates this movie: the state of the CGI, the VFX. Now, they fucking suck. They're diabolically bad for a movie that cost almost $300 million, has gone through numerous reshoots, is projected not really to make a profit.
Yeah.
These babies that are coming off the edge. I mean, do you remember a show called Ally McBeal?
Yeah, of course.
Do you remember the dancing baby in Ali?
Yeah.
Those were the models used for the Flash. Those babies. And I know you can't literally throw a baby out of a fucking window. And that's frowned on in many cultures.
Yes.
Understandably.
Including this one.
We're definitely anti-baby chucking on this particular show. Inside the beer pad,
Yeah.
no babies will ever be chucked.
But on our other show, no.
They will be cuddled and held, maybe occasionally bounced on a knee, not off a floor. Yeah. It just, when he starts to do the thing where he runs up and time slows down and you're like, oh, this is going to be cool. Then you look at those babies and you look at that dog that he saves. And then you look at him eating because he hasn't had his food and his right. Apple Watch is telling him his flash powers are running out. And
I assume it was a bat watch of some sort.
Oh, yeah. I mean, obviously, Bruce had given him that, that stuff. But it's just awful CGI. Nobody looked. And the director actually came out and gave an interview 2 days ago to defend the backlash, defend the film against the backlash and CGI. And he said, well, it's just the way that Barry sees things when he's super slowed down. And I call shenanigans on that. I'm sorry. You should just say, yeah, weren't the best. We tried. It'll get better next time.
I didn't have a problem with it. I mean,
come on, they were fucking horrible.
No, it looked weird. I wouldn't say
it looked like a bad PlayStation 3 game. It looked like The Order. For God's sake.
I'm not going that far, but I agree. It looked weird, but I think I do agree there's some stylistic choice involved in it. Because the way they use it in the CW show, I don't think that's how he would perceive things, because he's going through our world in a way we can't really understand. So I think it should get a little wacky. I didn't mind that scene at all, and I really liked how his view of speed and when he was in the Speed Force, especially. So I actually liked that CGI in the Speed Force. I thought that was really good, because he does have weird, wacky, superhuman powers.
They just basically set the tone for the CGI to be underwhelming to the extreme. I mean, obviously nobody's moving that fast to see her, so we can't really understand. But they're taking artistic license to piss take levels. CGI is bad. That's it. End of story. No arguments. And I will back up the CGI is bad.
I mean, it doesn't bother me. I don't.
It's just so jarringly bad. It yanks you out of it. And we have come from.
It yanked you out of it. Like for me, I'm more about the story. So even
it yanked me. My wife was watching it, and she was like,
but even in physical comics, the art is secondary to me. It's always about the writer. So
the presentation can have an impact on how you feel about the
absolutely. But
the story. I find it difficult to get. I'll be honest with you. I find it difficult to get into, say, a Batman book if the animation style is more anime/manga. I really just don't like that art style, and it really pulls me out of the story. But the story had me kind of hooked up until that point. And it's just so glaringly bad. And then it's like something we've not seen before, or we have seen, and we saw it in 2000.
No, I understand your perspective. It's just not.
I'm not the only one, my friend. I'm not
saying you're not.
You're being very kind to it. It's really atrocious.
View.
And the dog. I mean, it looks like Toy Story. They look like the grown-ups from Toy Story.
Sure, but They
look like the adults from Starfield. That's how
I'm
bad
not disagreeing with your point of view. I'm just saying it's not mine. Like I don't care that the dog looked goofy. That doesn't affect the movie for me.
But when everything starts to look goofy, and you've got this huge set piece that is to show how Barry can get stuff done, and he can pause stuff, and he throws a baby in the microwave, and he lines the babies up, and he's like, "Oh, I'm out of puff, and he grabs a burrito, and I mean, it's just I'm not talking about going full on Benny Hill and it'll.
Yeah, I get
I'm
it.
not talking about that. But when you look at, for example, how X-Men Days of Future Past did it with Quicksilver, that to me is absolutely the way it should be portrayed. I mean, I'm not
Hard
talking
disagree with
scientifically.
that.
I'm
Hard
talking about
disagree with that.
aesthetically. Are
I
you
I think
saying that the way the CGI did the big set pieces in the Flash is better than the way they did that one scene underneath the Pentagon in Days of Future Past? And
right.
don't forget, I'm talking about Days of Future Past, not the other one that you hate because what's her name's in it.
Oh,
Okay,
Olivia. Yeah.
yes, she's not in that one. She wasn't even a distant whisper.
Yeah. No,
Okay,
and that scene
Future
uses
Past is a
Jim.
good movie.
It uses. I wouldn't go that far.
Days of Future Past is a good movie. In fact,
You
it's
didn't
one of
send
the.
for. I don't.
Hang on. Oh,
I don't know if any of those movies are
some
good.
discussions, my friend. For X-Men Days of Future Past.
Yeah, I don't think it's great.
Wow. All right, Ray. I'm coming to Vegas. I'm gonna take your nerd card.
I mean, I actually read these comics, so it's. I don't
You
think
don't.
it's
You
like
don't
that.
think I. You don't think I have comic books?
I think you
don't
have
think
them.
I have all the comic books.
Now
and
I'm questioning
read-
if you've read them.
I have. I was reading comic books while you're still in diapers, my friend. And not only that, I've thanks to the Marvel app, I have read so many of of the books like House of M, Days of Future Past. Crikey, I mean, obviously the Civil War, the original Secret Wars, the shitty Secret Wars, Secret Invasion.
Right. I don't know why I'm not questioning that you have them. I disagree with your opinion that that's a good movie. The future stuff is not good.
It's certainly better than X3 and the next one, Apocalypse. And I mean, it's widely acknowledged X2 and that one are the two best X-Men movies.
I mean, that's a really low bar.
As opposed to... And the Quicksilver scene is, again, widely acknowledged. Maybe not in your circle. I don't know why.
No, I'm not saying... Did I say that
I
was
love
a bad
having
scene?
a fight.
No, we're not. I did not say anything about that scene. You've been talking about that scene the entire time.
And
I did not say anything bad about that scene.
Anything equivalent in the Flash.
I think it's a great scene. I love the Jim Croce use, but I think it's too much in our perspective. It doesn't really show what it's like. Because as you said before, we don't know what it's like to have those powers.
We don't know, but you still
it's not going to be
to a certain. You saying that if you go super fast, everybody looks like Robert De Niro from The Irishman?
No, I mean, have you ever watched a slow motion in like 45x or 60x? It does not look like how we perceive things.
From Ally McBeal.
I mean, just watch a slow motion. I mean, okay. I mean, let's just disagree because we're not going to get anywhere.
I think this is comedy Carlos is amused anyway.
It is. But I mean, as someone that has edited video in slow motion, I'm telling you, it does not look like how we perceive things in real time. And that's what that scene in X-Men, it was too close to our perspective, just slowing down the frames.
And but what you were saying is that the way that the Flash does it is acceptable when it just is. It goes from being a movie to a bad PlayStation 3 game.
Okay, for you. I mean, I don't say that definitively. And
billions of people, 8 billion people on the planet, 700
billions of people did not watch this movie. So
everybody who's watched this movie agrees with me.
Okay, can we move on?
No, yes,
we're not getting anywhere with this.
So CGI is shit, but I mean the scene itself is phenomenally clever. I mean, it does show how he has to refill his food, and how Barry has become really adept at being a superhero. And he does all of that stuff while Batman's off wrecking half of Gotham, chasing the guy with the doohickey in the box. So, and from that perspective, I liked it. It was building up more of this Barry that isn't necessarily too wisecracky, immature, and certainly shows an evolution of Barry from his Justice League days.
He's much more competent.
very competent. I mean,
Yeah.
super competent. And he did save the dog, which
Yes.
is all I care about.
He saved
Babies could have
everyone.
gone splat. Babies could have gone splat. And he put a baby in a microwave. I mean, let's face it. That's a great sight gag. Maybe that's why they couldn't do proper realistic babies, because the loony right would have gone, oh my God, they put a baby in a microwave. Oh my God, these liberal elites. Ah!
I mean, they're some of them are already upset about that we've had 2 African American Iris Wests. So
I am totally down with that, with Iris West being African American. I thought she was, the actress in The Flash is fantastic. And I think this one's possibly even better, because I mean, no offense to the actress in the TV series,
Candice Patton.
Candice Patton, who has been fantastic, and had to deal with some really shitty storylines, because that one that show really did run off a cliff towards the end. I mean, how many Speed Force related enemies can you have in 9 seasons?
I mean, for me, that peaked in like maybe season 3, and then just got worse and worse.
I mean, some of the crossovers were pretty good.
Yeah, those are the highlights for sure.
Yeah,
but on its own, like their whole villain of the week thing just got.
Tired.
So Carlos says, would the baby survive a nuclear blast like Indy? That was actually what popped in my head when I first saw. I'm like, is this like Indy's refrigerator? I don't know.
I mean, 60s refrigerators were supposed to be lead lined or something, weren't they?
Is that why?
That was the whole point back in. They made those things to last. They used lead, and they used asbestos, and they used radiation to make those things. And Americans were goddamn proud to have them.
Yes.
But on the subject of Iris West, she didn't get much screen time in this one, but she looked so normal.
Yeah,
it was
like
wonderful.
A real, actual person. Yeah,
she looked like a real human being person. And
because that's what she's a journalist. Continue. That's what journalists look like real.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just glad they didn't go for a novelty casting of, oh, look, here's another absolute gorgeous. I mean, I'm not saying she's not attractive, by the way. She is, but that's not the part of it. She looks like a normal, pretty African American woman, and we need to see more of that on our screen of everybody, normal, pretty people, which is why you and I will never be in the movies. Well, you might. I won't.
We shall see. So when does the first act end for you? Is that when he jumps back?
After he has that conversation with Bruce, with Batfleck. I'm going to miss saying Batfleck. Batfleck. Sorry, it tickles me. And he has this conversation about, I can go back, I can save my parents, I can save your parents, I can save everybody's parents, I can save you 15 minutes or less on your car insurance.
And he's like, you could ruin everything, which is also true.
And which is also true. A butterfly farts in Beijing, and here we get a nuclear tsunami.
So he does go back in time, but
that's where things start to go. Yes.
There are no metahumans when he goes back.
He does the run, and it's like boom, pops out of our. He creates a temporal hole, and he slips into that temporal hole. It's so inviting, and probably warm, and in he pops, and he's in his own bubble in the temporal hole.
Yes,
and this is where again we start to see the CGI being a little worrying, because we see these caricatures of his past or his future and his past, and
you see all these different possibilities of what could or what did happen,
and he just runs. And I mean, the thing I did like about how they tackled it is he's running, but he's running backwards, but he's running. It's not like, oh, I'm going to go awkward running backwards. It was very fluid how they did it, and time went back, and he popped out the day before. Actually, he popped back. When was it?
Wasn't it the day that his mother died, or was supposed to die because of the cooking?
He did. He dropped he dropped into that day and dropped this can of tomatoes into the basket. So her husband wouldn't have to go out, and she wouldn't die, and he wouldn't go to jail, and everything would be warm, hanky dunky dory. And obviously, as you can imagine, he is totally flummoxed and doesn't know, is just so overcome to see them both like that, and you understand why. And this is where I think Ezra Miller really shines. Ezra Miller carries off that confusion for me. That it's like, how do I act? I want to hug you. I want to tell you everything I've done.
Right, just feeling overwhelmed with emotion. Yeah,
exactly.
They do that so well, and I think they showed more depth than probably anyone else in this run of DC. Just
definitely.
So that I thought that was a fantastic thing, and his father was played by Ron Livingston, who I always go back to. What's that Favreau movie in L.A. when they're all young? It's
Swingers.
Swingers. So Livingston's in that too, and then they're like, God damn, he's playing dads now.
Office Space.
Office Space, fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely, criminally underrated actor. And he obviously replaced Eric Banner. Who was his dad in the Justice League movie? I can see the guy. He was the one who was also he was Doc Manhattan in the Watchmen.
Oh, Billy Crudup.
Billy Crudup, that's right. So yeah, he was Billy Crudup had conflict issues, shooting issues, Carlos, and so they had to. Thank you, Carlos. Yeah, so they had to replace him again. So Ron Livingston came in, and Ron Livingston's awesome. But it is a sign that we're getting old when actors we grew up watching who are our age are now playing dads, and actresses who were teenagers when we were growing up are now playing grandmothers, because that's the way Hollywood goes. It's like, you're 30, well, you can be a grandmother now.
Hey, that's how it works in porn. No.
That's I don't. No.
One of my friends.
No.
One of my friends is in the business.
No.
And she was saying when she
please,
when she passed her
show. No.
When she passed her mid-20s, she was getting MILF roles. I'm like, in your mid-20s, like okay.
Oh no, I don't want to. Anyway, so yeah, but I mean, Ezra Miller does really well with that conflict, and then you have this. You see the other Ezra Miller from this timeline, because is coming back from college to do their laundry, and doesn't have the powers yet, and
that's 18-year-old Barry.
18-year-old Barry, who is almost about to get the powers. So Barry got them at 18, and then you just see the interaction. I thought the CGI there on occasion a little iffy, but on the whole really good with the whole mapping of the doubles. And I thought Ezra Miller played off themselves very, very well.
Yeah, it was very. That can get really tiresome, but they did really well with just keeping it fresh and flowing. So
I didn't get tired. They managed that the amount of screen time where you'd have both Barrys as very, very. They managed it very well.
And they introduced another Batman in Act 2, and this was, for a lot of people in our age range, this was the big deal, because for so many of us, Michael Keaton was the first great superhero movie actor, and he comes back as an older, more broken down, very beat up, very scarred Batman.
Yeah,
it was cool to see him and hear that Danny Elfman music, see the old Batmobile, and
the reason they go to find him is because our Barry takes other Barry to go and get their powers, but it doesn't happen, or it happens, but it happens in a way that strips our Barry of his powers. So you've got one Flash and one non-Flash.
Yes.
And so obviously now they're like, Barry has the knowledge, but not the powers to do anything about it. So, he tries to track down the other members of the Justice League, and there is no Wonder Woman. There, Arthur Curry was never born.
Yeah.
Cyborg is still a footballer and hasn't had the accident yet. So yeah, they don't have this. He has nobody to go to except Bruce Wayne, and they go to Wayne Manor. And I mean, I think the thing that was curious to me, because obviously, in the in the Flashpoint cartoon, for example, it's Thomas Wayne who survives, not Bruce.
Yes.
And he becomes Batman.
Yes.
And he's a lethal vigilante. And I thought they were going to mess around with the timeline a little. I thought, before I realized perhaps they were messing around with the actual timeline, I thought he was going to play
Thomas. That would have been interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Until, that would have explained the age jump.
Yeah. Carlos says, I thought this was a clever way to give us an origin without having this movie start with an. Yeah, for sure.
It is interesting. I mean, but obviously, we've had that particular universe's, Batman origin, and they showed off the Flash's origin. You're right, 100%. And then it kind of really follows. They try. Barry searches for the Kryptonian pod.
Right.
Finds out where Kal-El is. It's not Kal-El.
It's Kara Zor-El.
Kara Zor-El. And I loved. I actually thought that the second act was probably the strongest part of the movie. The interplay between the two Barrys. Kara was woefully underutilized, but Michael Keaton steals the movie.
I mean, he's fantastic in so many things. So, of course, I expected greatness from him.
But it was nice just to see him back.
Yeah. How did that feel for you from a nostalgia standpoint?
Oh, dude, I loved it. I mean, again, it is nostalgia, it is fan, but I'm one of those few people who enjoyed Keaton's Batmans over a lot of the other ones. I mean, I like the Bale ones, don't get me wrong, but the two that Keaton did, Batman Returns, as I think I've said before,
fantastic.
Far and away my favorite Batman movie ever. And he was just perfect in it, note perfect.
Yeah.
And this was in the late 80s, early 90s, where he caught so much shit for being cast as Batman. People were just absolutely freaking out about it. And yeah, I think Batman Returns is quite possible. It like I said, for me personally, it's far and away the best Batman movie.
I would agree. I mean,
and to see him come back and to see that Batcave and that Danny Elfman music, and the cobwebs over everything, and then the Batplane, how we see the Batplane actually being, how it has to be lowered, and we see the Batmobile, everything. I thought it really just worked super well. So I was delighted to see Keaton back. And like I said, that middle section, it's less CGI intensive, apart from obviously the two Barrys, and then there is actually a battle while they free Kara Zor-El.
Right.
But that was incredibly satisfying. That was a great battle.
Yeah.
And it does follow the books pretty faithfully there. Get her into sunlight, get him,
And you see her skin change, because when they get Kara, she looks really emaciated and just really gaunt. She's all mostly bones.
Yeah.
But you see her regenerating in the sunlight and becoming stronger before your eyes, literally. Should also give a shout out to Michael Shannon, who returns as Zod, not the Kneel before Zod, who's really the best Zod.
That is the best Zod. Terrence Stamp. No offense to Michael Shannon, who is an awesome actor, but
how do you follow that? Terrence Stamp.
Terrence Stamp, man.
Yeah.
Zod, Non, and Ursa. Boom. There's your fucking triumvirate of evil.
And it's just fun to randomly say, "Come, son of Jor-El, kneel before Zod." So good.
And he just does it with this scene-chewing beautifulness. And again, if you haven't seen Superman 2, I thoroughly recommend it. The Donna cut is actually really interesting to watch. But that's a conversation for another time.
Yes. So we get this big band back together.
How do you feel about that second act? Do you have any issues? Because I think that second act is far and away the best part of the movie.
Very much agree with you, especially with Supergirl being underused or underutilized. She has great presence. I've never seen this actor before, so I don't know how good or bad they are. She did well with
Ratcatcher.
She wasn't no, she doesn't have that stunning.
No, she wasn't Ratcatcher, because apparently the Ratcatcher girl is everywhere.
She's everywhere.
Yeah.
She is everywhere, especially if it's a Gunn film. But yeah, I know very little about this actor. Apparently, she was a soap opera actor before. So,
well, I thought she was underutilized, and I hope she's another one who makes the cut into the Gunverse.
yeah, she's supposed to get her own movie, but let's see.
Yeah.
I will hope. I'll definitely watch it. I think she's great. But yeah, I agree with you. I thought the fight was great. The whole breaking out of the Russian prison, and even there's some comedy, like when 18-year-olds Barry knocks over the big metal beam and then just starts making all this big loud noise, and
that was some good slapstick and a nice way to lighten the brevity. And I
Yeah.
think again, all the way through to when Barry gets his powers back, and how Supergirl comes back, or Kara comes back to help with that, which again, very similar to the books and the cartoons. Lightning, shit ton of chemicals, and a whole lot of pain for Barry Allen. And yeah, that to me signals the end of Act 2, because everybody's powered up, everybody's ready to go and tackle Zod and his armies. And for me, this is where the movie proceeds to just take a dive into shit turdsville.
Before that, should we? Act 2 also has Batman's explanation of the multiverse in this.
Oh yeah, I'll never look at spaghetti again, my friend.
So most of the time when they explain the multiverse, they always do it like with a line,
which
and then
they did
in timelines
in Loki, and that worked.
And Loki and the Avengers also.
But now there's the ragu version.
The ragu. So yeah, now you have your pasta version where.
Well, it's Days of Future Pasta.
Oh, nice. Well done. Well crafted.
Thank you.
So Keaton Batman explains the multiverse as spaghetti, where some strands will interchange with each other. Those are the pivotal moments that have to happen no matter what. Also explained in Across the Spider-Verse. See our last
Doctor
video.
Who was a fixed moment in time.
Yeah.
Or a fixed point in time.
But it isn't as clean as some explanations have led you to believe. Most notably, Back to the Future, I think, did a poor job of explaining how the causal effects of it. But I'm not a time-space expert, so don't take my word for it. How did you like the spaghetti?
I thought the spaghetti analogy, I thought it was great. It made me think about things a different way.
Yeah.
The fact that you have the ripples going forward, but you have the ripples going backwards. And that's why we've got a different Batman. That's why we've got a different superhuman, Kryptonian. That's why we don't know if there are any other metas anywhere. So, I mean, that is the true ripples in the pond, because what we forget is, you make the ripples in the pond, you just think ahead. The ripples in the pond go back, forward. I mean, they're circular. They go out everywhere. So I thought that was actually brilliant. Like I said, it reinforced that middle act for me as being super enjoyable. It flew by. Loved every single minute of it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it had the heaviest Keaton scenes, so of course,
I mean,
he
brings it. I mean, he was excellent in Spider-Man: Homecoming as the Doctor.
Yeah.
I mean, he can exude menace, which is what he did. He did as Batman, and he was great. He was great. All right, let's talk about the third act.
And this is where it falls apart for you, huh?
This is where it totally takes a. This is one of my problems with the DC extended universe, or the DC cinematic universe, however people want to address it. They've had a bad guy problem all the way through.
Yeah.
Wonder Woman, shitty bad guy. Wonder Woman 1984, shitty bad guy. When you have Pedro Pascal as your number one bad guy and you can't utilize them properly, that's horrible.
Well, you also tried to make David Thewlis menacing, and that's just not what he does.
Well, no, he does menacing differently. He does he can be terrifying. I've seen David Thewlis as a TV
you're right.
shows,
you're
right. He can exude menace like that,
but not when he's God of War.
Not when he's CGI'd the fuck up.
Yeah, fantastic actor, one of my favorites.
Yeah, and then you look at Aquaman Fish Sticks. It's there. You look at the Justice Leagues, and you look at Batman v Superman, and how they took this creature in Doomsday
Oh my
and
god!
just Doomsday was a disaster.
What a
Justice League,
waste! What a
yeah,
waste.
I mean it's across the board, and this is the biggest misstep for me. They brought back Zod, and again, no offense to Michael Shannon, but talk about a waste of an actor. His Zod, he's obviously disinterested in playing this role. I mean, he said so, that he had to be heavily convinced to come back. I'm guessing it was them throwing money at him. They could have done anything.
You're right.
There is such a vast universe. They didn't have to go back to this bullshit over and over again, to one of the worst Superman movies of all time in Man of Steel.
But I think they did that to introduce Kara. So
no, they didn't need to. But they could have brought Kara and tackled something else. They could have actually done a proper Doomsday.
They could have.
They could have. They could have brought an early Mother box in. There's so many characters or something they could have done that would have been better. I mean, obviously, I haven't thought of who yet, but I'm sure after 15 minutes with a collection of fucking Batman and books and Superman books and everything that we've got, Justice League books, we have got here, we could have come up with a better bad guy than Zod. It just totally failed because we were just retreading over and over the end of that shitty Superman movie.
But you see, to me, you use the word he could have been interchangeable, and I totally agree with that. But I think that's partially intentional, because I didn't see Zod as the bad guy of the movie. It's really the older Barry himself that keeps, and this is from the Flash Reddit, the Barry that keeps sticking his dick in the timeline.
Yes, he keeps sticking his dick in the timeline. But I mean, you know what? They could have brought in Eobard Thawne. They could have given us Reverse Flash, that we'd needed Batman, Supergirl, Superwoman, and two Barrys to beat. Because Reverse Flash, as anybody who's watched the Berlanti Flashverse, the Arrowverse, knows, that Reverse Flash needs a fucking army of superheroes to take him down. Because apparently he's the biggest bad guy ever, because he keeps on coming back in some way, shape, or form.
Wasn't he the big bad for like 3 of the 9 seasons, or 4?
I think he's still the big bad.
Yeah.
I think he's still the big bad.
Yeah.
I think he's going to turn up again in one of the other movies. I don't know. So yeah, I really could have done without that. There was just no payoff. There was just no, it just got in the way of stuff. Oh, let's go to the desert and have a fight. At least they didn't pick a fight in downtown Metropolis with thousands and thousands of people killed, like Superman stupidly did in Man of Steel. At least they had the sense to, let's keep it in the desert, so the only ones who die are soldiers. And then, so Zod, useless. The only high point, the only real interesting flicker of a great idea was watching young Barry try and go back and save Batman and save Supergirl. Oh, spoiler. Well, we're in the spoiler zone anyway.
Yeah.
They die.
Yeah.
Not only that, they die repeatedly because Barry keeps on going back and trying to reset the timeline. And
right.
Every time he comes back and he's got more Kryptonian metal in him and he's starting to crust up.
And eventually young Barry becomes like young olds Barry.
But I mean, you can see he's starting to lose his mind because he doesn't have the life experience to handle such a heavy gig yet. He hasn't had a real, he hasn't had Bruce, and he hasn't had Diana, and he hasn't had Kal-El, and he hasn't had all these guys. He hasn't had Alfred around him.
Right. But see, to me, that's the real bad guy in the movie, is that older he ends up, he's actually the one that ends up throwing Barry back in time to that exact place. And
so which means if that Barry was the bad guy, not necessarily Eobard Thawne, then that could have been a much better Barry, a better bad guy, without continually trying to just having to put us through all the, oh look, here's Zod killing Kara again and again and again and again. and this world is going to fucking collapse now again and again and again. And it just, the fact that, it's like they had an interesting aspect with, the multiverse is now starting to collapse. Everything's starting to come together.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where the fan wankery came in. Because when I texted you last night,
Mm-hmm.
I said, fan wankery by the bucket load.
So you didn't like that scene with Nick Cage and
I thought, look,
and
I mean, the Nick Cage one and the big spider, I had to explain to Shauna what it was about, and she was like, okay. I chuckled at it. But again, the bad CGI threw me. It kind of threw me. If you're going to get Nick Cage in and de-age him a little bit and put him into make it look realistic, not like a bad cartoon. The same as when we got Helen Slater and Christopher Reeve as Supergirl and Superman, circa 1980s. If you're going to play homage to them, you do it properly.
There was no Grant Gustin.
There was no Arrowverse Sphere. No, not at all. We didn't see Linda Carter, Wonder Woman. We didn't, we did get a little bit of Adam West.
Right. But was the old Superman like way back?
Yes, the very
George
first Reeves, George Reeves,
yes.
Who was murdered, I believe.
Yeah, there was something really weird
in the show Hollywood. There was a movie about Hollywoodland where he was played by Ben Affleck. So yes, I just, again, seeing this bad CGI and this bad CGI again, it just felt like I was watching. It was BBC level special effects. I mean, I expected a Dalek to come out covered in tinfoil. I mean, and like old BBC, not even the most recent. And yeah, it just, it felt like, okay. Well, look, I love a bit of fan service. I love a bit of fan wankery when it's done right. It just felt like, we've given you Michael Keaton. And, now we're going to throw this in. And, look at that. It's Christopher Reeve CGI'd and looking really, really weird. And, look, there's Nick Cage. Aren't we very clever poking fun at our own history? Because he's beating a spider, because the spider was the bad guy in the Superman Reborn movie that Nick Cage was supposed to be a part of, and Kevin Smith wrote the script, and there was a big spider, and Brainiac was the spider. And I mean, I'm just glad they didn't have, for example, Bale in there and everything else.
Carlos says, I'm thinking about it right now, and what if they meant to do it like Sony did with the Spider-Verse movies, where they all have their different frame rates and styles? Yeah, I mean, that scene didn't really bother me.
But they failed miserably. I think Spider-Verse set the standard.
I mean,
Spider-Verse being an animated, Spider-Verse, the second one in particular, is of such a high standard that it blends. It's an animated show, movie, yes, but it shows the Lego one, and we all have a laugh, and isn't that cool? And then we see the live action Prowler being sent back, and we see bits of Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, and that made it work. Spider-Man Far From Home or No Way Home, they obviously got it to work because they pulled everybody together and they de-aged a couple of people, and they were all in one section, and it worked. And that's why Spider-Verse is a prime example of how you can do it to get it to work. But if they'd have kept it with, when you're looking at live action Superman, Supergirl, etc. stuff, you can't turn it into pan and scan. You can't turn it into black and white. You can't turn it all into CGI. You color them and make them look the best they possibly could. Because when we experienced those universes as fans, as consumers, we saw them as looking realistic. And that is my problem. If they'd have stuck to keeping them as realistic as possible, I think it would have just elevated things a lot more and would have covered up perhaps the weakness of having Zod as the fake bad guy that was not really needed over and over again. And I think you could have really justified it, and it would have brought more gravitas than seeing a bunch of poorly CGI characters in spheres because we're going to get literal. Worlds are colliding here. We'll call the literal police because I need to be arrested.
I mean, they visualized it that way in the comics with worlds literally crashing into each other.
But when the worlds are actually
blowing
crashing
up,
into it, they show the world. They show planets doing it.
Yeah.
Not here's a green planet.
Yeah,
I hear Joker's laugh. Here's a red planet. And they're like planets with different pictures in them.
right.
And look, I understand
it was
tough,
short enough that it didn't. I didn't think of it one way or another.
but it's meant to have the gravitas of this is the end of the the Snyderverse. Hurrah! And again,
just be happy that it's over, man.
Yeah, I suppose it could have just been bad. And what worries me is now they've hired the same director to work on Batman.
Mm-hmm.
And if he can deliver 3 acts that are as good as the second act in Flash, we'll be okay. But I don't have. Maybe it was the reshoots. Maybe it was trying to redo CGI. Maybe it was all the delays. Who knows? All the changes in director.
A lot that could have gone.
It
didn't. I enjoyed it more than you. The third act. It wasn't perfect by any means, but the Zod thing doesn't bother me at all. To me, he could have been interchangeable, and he was there to introduce a new Kryptonian. So it works from that standpoint.
I just hate that. I mean, like I said, I hate that version of Zod and everything attached to him from Man of Steel. I really do. I just think it's pathetic.
Well, at least we didn't get Fat Jor-El. They couldn't afford him.
Well, he's dead. Are you talking about Marlon Brando? You're talking about
Russell Crowe.
I actually thought Russell Crowe was great as Jor-El. Yes, he's put on a fair bit of poundage, but I think Russell Crowe was actually a great Jor-El. I really did enjoy.
Right, but I don't think they could have afforded. They couldn't. He wouldn't have fit into the budget for.
I'm sure he would. For God's sake, have you seen The Pope's Exorcist?
No, I haven't. Is it?
He'll work for Kangaroo Burgers now.
Has his career taken that turn?
No, actually, Pope's Exorcist is actually not a bad little horror movie, to be honest with you. And we do Russell Crowe a disservice because he is a fine actor and somebody who likes to punch people who criticize him. So, as you can tell, it's that guy who's criticizing.
So, I mean,
so can we just talk about one last thing? Sorry.
Yeah.
When Barry's back. And all is right with the world. His dad gets off because gets off the charge because his dad looked up because Barry moved the cans. Tomatoes.
Yeah. So earlier he had Bruce rework this video footage to try to exonerate his dad, but in that footage it doesn't show his face, so they can't use that as an alibi.
Down and he has a hat.
Yeah. So what Barry did in the past is he moved the sauce cans to the top shelf, so Dad had to look up and get one, and he was exonerated. So he's still, after all that he learned, he still messed around with the timeline. So did he really learn anything?
And of course, now we're all paying the price. Although, again, this is the end of the Snyderverse, so the final nudge nudge wink wink say no more is when Bruce Wayne pulls up outside the courtroom and he's talking to Barry on the phone, and he pulls up and Barry goes to thank him for all his. And I actually thought it was going to be Bale. I actually thought it would have been, which would have made a lot more sense to me. But I'm sure Bale didn't want anything to do with this.
Clooney's funnier.
But I mean, yes, and it's George Clooney. Yes, it is George Clooney, somebody who has taken great delight in admitting that he almost, he did kill the Batman franchise.
I don't know if he's delightful about it.
Oh no, he admits it, and he doesn't revel in it. I mean, he readily admits.
Yeah,
I don't think it's delight, but I think it's got to the stage where he's like, "Yeah, I did it. So what the fuck are you gonna do? I got paid." And you get to see him as a markedly older Bruce Wayne, because he and Affleck are not the same age. I think there's 10 years difference. And Barry's tooth falls out, which is
Well,
which
they
is
also
shit.
save their one PG-13 F-bomb for that scene. And I thought
Yeah,
it was perfect
yeah,
where Barry's like, who the fuck is this guy?
yeah. Um, and then we ended up in an end credit scene, not mid credits, because I mean, we have to keep everybody around for all the fucking credits, and the poor cinema staff waiting till the end credits to
Thank you,
see
gaffers.
Barry. Yeah, Barry and Jason Momoa, Aquaman, out getting drunk, and Barry explained to him that he's been through all through the multiverse, so he's obviously been very naughty. He's been running around still, hasn't learned his lesson, and
Ooh.
wherever he goes, it's always a different Batman, but it's always the same Arthur Curry. And that's obviously a very clever reshoot that came in post Gunn and Safran that allows this Falls Aquaman and the Curse of the Underwater Green Leggings, or whatever the fuck it's called,
Yeah, it
to
lets them
actually
do the
fit.
sequel. Yeah.
Yeah, because it actually fits in the new DC movie universe, along with Blue Beetle.
Yes.
James Gunn has been asked about this, and he said these movies are coming out and are the first movies that will fit under the new universe. So it means we will see Momoa again, or we might see Momoa again if they do an Aquaman 3, which I'm sure they will. Because, I mean, again, he effortlessly owns the part. We'll see Blue Beetle, which is very interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Is that August?
I could have,
I believe.
yeah, I could have done without the trailer beforehand that gives away the entire fucking movie. But I mean, it does.
Speaking of which, my theater experience drastically changed halfway through the movie when the air conditioning went down.
Oh, dude, I'm so sorry.
Then I'm like, why am I sweating? And then like, it's all stuffy in here. Like,
Oh no, that's not good, because
yeah,
it was actually
Vegas.
warm on
Oh.
Thursday. Yeah, I mean, when we went into the theater, it was the first time the theater had been open that day, and they hadn't had the AC running long enough, and it was stuffy in there for the first 15 minutes. So I saw them cool down. Can I just say, the best my cinema experience, because I went to the iPic in Pasadena, which is smaller. The highlight of my experience was we were in our corner seats, because they do a 2-4-2. In the 4 was a couple of guys. I don't know whether it was a brother and two brothers and one of the kids, or a gay couple and one of their kids. But this little boy, he must have been about 4, 5, 6 tops, and he was dressed in a little Flash outfit.
Oh, that's awesome.
He was a really, really cute Latino boy, and he was so excited to see Flash on screen, and so bored when Flash wasn't on screen. And you could just hear him go, "Where's the Flash? Oh, where'd Flash go?" And it's like, shh, shh. And I didn't have the heart to be ticked off. It actually enhanced my viewing pleasure that I was getting to the shitty parts of the movie, and I'd look over and he was like, "Where's Flash?" And he had his little hat on, and the Flash mask on up above his head, and he was just so happy, and just to be, oh my god, just to be that happy to be a child and experiencing this that we never got to really experience, because this stuff wasn't available. The closest we got was John Wesley Shipp as Flash.
Yes.
Who, admirable as he was, I mean, it was an awful series, but
in his velour costume, like why is it velour?
Very 80s British curry house wallpaper kind of costume. But yeah, that to me really, that was I say that's the best part of the experience for me, just watching this little chap. And then you just wonder, oh my god, poor little bugger, the world he's growing up into. But that's a discussion for another day.
So let's get out of here on this. Let's talk about where we would place this among the other DCEU movies. For me, it's top 3. Carlos says John Shipp made a great Jay Garrick. He absolutely did.
He did.
I like Shazam and Wonder Woman better, but for me, this would probably be 3rd, partially because I like Flash so much. And I thought Ezra did an incredible job in this movie. I do like the timey-wimey multiverse stuff more than most people. It does get silly, but
And I love that it gives James Gunn a fresh slate to basically do whatever he wants.
Yeah.
And he needs it too, because I am not a fan of what Snyder did. And, but for me, I'll put it as my third favorite DCEU.
So are we including Suicide Squad in this?
Are they part of it? I guess so. Maybe
I think they are.
That would actually be my one then.
Yeah. Suicide Squad is far and away number one. The James Gunn one.
Yeah,
of course.
Not the bullshit Will Smith.
Not the other one, which suffered again from an atrocious bad guy. At least Will Smith's had a couple of at least James Gunn's had a couple of different bad guys, and Starro. I mean, only Gunn can carry off a big fucking starfish as the bad guy.
Yes.
Which really gives me hope for the Superman movie that we'll get Brainiac or something like that, as opposed to
that'd be awesome.
Lex Luthor looking for another land grab. So that's obviously number one. Wonder Woman doesn't make it for me. I'm sorry. Good grief.
Shazam? First one.
Shazam first one was actually enjoyable enough. That can come in at number two.
I finally saw that, by the way.
Yeah.
It was a step down for sure.
I mean, Black Adam, no. I suppose it could come in joint third with Wonder Woman and maybe Aquaman, because Aquaman was entertaining.
You like that one more than I did.
Aquaman was stupidly entertaining, and Momoa carried it off. So maybe this could be a tie for third place with those two movies.
Carlos is putting it as his number two. Interesting.
Well, again, I mean, it's slim pickings. I mean, you've literally got the Suicide Squad, which is far and away. I mean, that's the Gone with the Wind. It's the fucking Casablanca of DC extended universes.
Yeah.
And then you've got like 50,000 miles, 30,000 miles of shit. And then you've got everything else. Everything else in the Snyderverse is shit.
I would even put a barrier between like the Wonder Woman, Shazam. I'd put another barrier between that and the Snyderverse movies, because some of them, like Wonder Woman 2 is not good, but it didn't.
Oh, it's awful. It
didn't offend me like the Snyderverse movies did, though. Like I didn't.
No, actually, Wonder Woman 1984 is right down there with the worst of the lot. I mean, it just
it's not good, but it's not. It didn't
it's awful.
It didn't offend me, like I didn't find like it's not. I hated some of the choices that Snyder made, like actively hated, as opposed to.
I actually actively
Wonder Woman 84. I'm like, it's whatever. It's not good.
I'm perhaps I don't know. I mean, I'm not as invested in that character as most anyway. But I mean, I was just disappointed there was potential in Wonder Woman 1. Useless bad guy, weak ending, a lot going for it other than that. And then the second one had the whole of 1984 to play with.
Yeah,
so much cool stuff.
Yeah,
and Kristen Wiig, awful.
Yeah, she was not great.
And Pedro Pascal, horribly wasted.
Yeah.
With Kristen Wiig, she's a very limited actress. She's she's much like Will Ferrell in a lot of ways. In a supporting in an ensemble, she can be really good, much like Will Ferrell. Have them lead, one trick pony. I just don't even want to think about those ones anymore. So maybe, like I said, joint third with whatever I said. But at the end of the day, if it looks like crap, smells like crap, it's probably DC Extended Universe.
So would you watch this again if it just happened to be on TV?
I'll watch it.
I would.
Max.
I'm happy to watch it on
my
streaming.
Big screen. And.
As opposed to the Snyder, like I will not watch Batman v Superman unless I'm forced to, unless it's some kind of torture is involved.
I've got a funny feeling that when I die and go to hell, I'm going to have to watch the Snyderverse movie
on loop,
with probably a bunch of Snyder fans commentating in my ear as they do. I mean, that's going to be hell for me. I mean, look, I'll watch them if they're on. I don't actively source them out.
Fair enough. So those are our thoughts on the Flash movie.
How many? How many? Let's go back to our ratings. How many babies in a microwave do you give it out of 5?
Let's see. Out of how many babies were there in that scene? Let's say there are 7 in that scene.
Well, no, I know, but there's only one baby in a microwave. But we're going to go. If you're going to have 5 babies in a microwave, how many babies in a microwave would you give it?
On a score of 1 to 5 babies, no halves.
No halves.
4. I'll go 4 babies in a microwave.
I'll go 3.
Fair enough.
And it's all because of that amazing second act and the
Keaton, especially. I mean,
the Keaton. Yeah, the Keaton.
The Keaton.
Yeah. Do we want to see Ezra back?
I would. And going back on what you said, assuming they get the help they need and clean up their act, sure. Second chances are a good thing.
Yeah. But they have to clean their shit up.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely. So, guys, thank you for watching and hanging out with us.
And
please
girls
like, subscribe.
Non-binaries.
So, everyone, please.
Folks.
Like, subscribe, share. Like again on
for
your
God's
relatives'
sake,
phones.
share. I mean, we're busting our asses watching mediocre movies for you, and then giving up our Sunday lunchtimes to come talk to you about it. I mean, Carlos is here, and Carlos is a rock star.
Yes,
but I mean, hey. But again, enjoy. So, what are we going to cover next?
We do have to do Diablo 4. That is on the agenda. Should we do that next?
We probably should, because Indiana Jones and the Dial of Diarrhea opens next weekend. But I don't got tickets for it until the 5th of July.
Okay, I'll wait for you.
We couldn't get in. So
wow, it's that hot over there for that movie.
I think a lot of grown-ups want to see the final indie, and the buzz is. It's funny. Some of the reviews are really really mediocre, but some people are saying that it's way better than the last one, which is all I need to hear.
The last one was garbage.
It was absolute garbage.
Like that made me hate Sean LaBeouf forever.
Shia.
Yes,
Shia was dire. Shia LaBeouf. We do need to talk Diablo. We'll do some crossplay.
Yeah, and we'll have some special guests with us. Paul said he is down to talk about Diablo.
Oh, not that guy again. He's not special. He turns up whenever we need him. He's not
special. I'm so special. Shania said he was special.
Shania?
Didn't she do the remake of
Shania Goldenblatt, who serves the deli counter at Cantor's around the corner from his house?
Oh,
yeah.
Langer's is better than Cantor's if you're gonna go deli in LA.
Yeah, Roma's Deli down here in Pasadena make the best sandwich in the world. Anyway, I'm sure we'll find some guests.
Yes. And we will see you next time.
And hopefully the air conditioning won't go out.
Oh, that happened over there? Or our next movie? Yeah. Yeah, no, if it walks out on indie, I'm not invested enough to. I would walk out if it's like 90 degrees inside the theater.
Yeah, no.
And be like, can I get my money back, please? Yeah.
And on that bombshell.
Yes, we will see you next time. Thank you for watching the Beer Pad. Bye, guys.
Ta-ta.